Welcome to this month's Business of Pleasure podcast. Now, London theatre is the envy of the world, but it wouldn't be possible without the wonderful London theatre audiences. And for the past quarter of a century, Steve Rich, the Theatre Monkey, has been the theatre goers champion, advising on pricing, seat views, legroom, I think even down to program costs and ice cream in the interval. Welcome to the Business of Pleasure podcast, Steve.
Thanks, David. It's wonderful to be here.
So, just as a little bit of a background here, way back in the distant past, when I would open a show or reprice a show, before the tickets went on sale with the agents or before they were sold to the public, I would invite Steve into the auditorium to have a walk around and let me know what he thought the possible problems might be. A tradition that then carried on with other West End theatre inventory controllers. And you, the theatre audience, have benefited from Steve's advice indirectly and directly. But what was it about theatre that became made it an all-consuming passion for you, Steve?
And indeed, an entire career. Well, what it was, the magic of theatre basically started when I was about 9. And there was a little girl in a red dress that I was taken to see just at New Year. That was Annie, the musical of Victoria Palace on its first run. And I was absolutely fascinated that you could create New York on a London stage just with a crowd walking on a travelator at the back of the stage, bustling, and you could tell a story using songs. It was amazing. And I was hooked. Obviously, I've been in the infants and junior school plays, and I'd enjoy being in those, Joseph in his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat and so on. But I realized that it was really being the audience and the technical side and the commercial side of theatre that appealed to me.
I get why theatre, but the big secret, why the monkey?
Okay, so two things really. First of all, I started going to the theatre on my own when I was about 12 or so. Those were the days. These days, you can't actually get in until you're 16 without an adult. And I guess that's insurance, but I do wonder what a young Cameron Mackintosh would have made of that, because he used to go to Bristol Old Vic, I believe. He'd bunk off school when he was much younger in those days.
That's why Mary Poppins opened in Bristol before it came to London, because that's where Cameron had seen shows as a
He did, and I
young
think
man.
and I think it's also why the Victoria Palace has its boxes at the back to echo his beloved Bristol Old Vic. But yes,
just on I've seen Mary Poppins in a large number of venues. Nothing really was as powerful as that first night in Bristol. There's something about the Bristol audience, the Bristol Hippodrome, and no one had seen it. Brought a load of agents down to see it. Hadn't refused to take any money off them. No, see the show first, and then pre-buy tickets. And it was just the most. It wasn't a West End first night audience. It was a Bristol Hippodrome first night audience. There were a few London mixed in as well. It was just an amazing atmosphere.
It must have been. And hopefully The Greatest Showman will get the same reception in a few months' time. Any luck?
I'm sure.
We hope so. But so what happened to make me do that? So as I said, I started going when I was on my own when I was about 12, and I was very lucky. Box office staff started to recognise who I was. And in those days, you had student standbys, which you don't really have anymore. But you could pitch up at about 10 in the morning on a quiet show day and they'd more than happily let you have a ticket. And it would always be a case of we can only squeeze you in the back row, of course, and they'd hand me a ticket, and it was for a lovely seat in the middle of the stalls.
Sure.
And I became addicted. And as the time went on, I started to realise that some seats were much better than others. And I had an unfortunate incident at Les Miserables where I was seated next to the sound desk. I had the lights in my face,
I was at the
and
Palace.
it was at the Palace,
I
and
know it well.
V13, I believe. And I did actually
Right.
manage to get a refund because it was, I could hardly see the show. Well, I could see the
Hmm.
show, but it wasn't what I'd signed up for. And fortunately, I had read a book called The Playgoer's Companion.
Right.
And in it, it actually talked a little bit about some of the theatres. And it actually said that the Aldwych Theatre has an upper circle like the north face of the Eiger. And I realised then that you could start to criticise the seats. So, fortunately, dear old Foyles, in the old days when you used to queue up to pay and then queue up to actually take your book, had a copy of this. And this is the actual book that started Theatre Monkey, London Theatre Scene,
I
with
remember it
actual,
well. Uh,
you do, we will do, with actual seating plans in it. And as you can see on there, actual notes that became Theatre Monkey. But this one
right.
says Cambridge Theatre, avoid first four seats on all rows of the stalls. Now, that was a little bit unfair because actually, if you get to the back, you do now have a reasonable view.
Hmm.
But I started making sure that I was always getting the very best seats for my money. And as a
Yeah.
student, believe me, I didn't have a lot of that. Then, towards the end of my university career, I got seriously ill. I caught what could have been flu, but it put me flat on my back for 2 or 3 years. And when I began to recover, I needed a job, couldn't find one. And eventually I was actually turned down just for a job entering data into a computer for a freezer company.
Hmm.
And I realized that if I didn't do it for myself, nothing would happen. So my parents had happened to buy a computer which sat completely unused because they didn't really know how to use one. And I started to teach myself because I needed to learn to relearn how to use my fingers. So
Hmm.
I taught myself to touch type, which taught me how to use my hands again properly.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, well, this was the dawn of the internet. This was 1999, when everything was going
Hmm.
to fall out of the sky on the 1st of January. And I thought, well, I can beat that. And I thought, I need something to type. I thought, why not computerize everything that I knew about West End theatre auditoriums?
Hmm.
And I borrowed some software from the man who built the original computer. And I taught myself not only how to design a website, not very well, but I taught myself how to do that.
Hmm.
I also computerized my notes and seating plans, creating every single one of them myself in Excel. Trial and error. It took over 5 months to figure out how to create the plans in Excel and then
Sure.
make them into small enough files that our old 56.6K download could handle. And when I cracked all of that, Theatre Monkey was born on the 1st of December 2000.
You haven't explained why the monkey.
Ah, the name.
The name, the
The
monkey, could have been the
name.
iguana, the theatre, the giraffe. I mean,
It could
why
have
the
been.
monkey?
It could have been. Well, it could have been show monkey until I found out that it was American slang for something completely not really what I was going to do.
Okay.
But Theatre Monkey, it came about because, well, okay, the official version is that when I started going to the theatre, and indeed right up until the mid 2010s, theatre was very staid. You know, it was
Hmm.
quite formal and everything about it was formal. And I was monkeying around with a very formal institution. And if we're being completely honest, when Theatre Monkey began, some of the theatre owners were not so keen on it. Some of them thought it was brilliant, but a lot of them weren't so keen for the first couple of years until they realised that it contained information they could use. There's an awful lot more now riding on people going because simply tickets are a lot more expensive than they used to be, out of
Hmm.
proportion. And even if people aren't having a good time, they are convincing themselves they are having the best time they can. And this means a standing ovation at the end of every single performance. It doesn't matter how awful it might be, everybody's on their feet at the end of it because they've got to convince themselves that they're having the best time. People
Which
are a
was
lot
how,
less.
which was
Sorry,
how things were for many years on Broadway. I always
exactly,
said my socks would get standing ovation on Broadway if someone
well,
forked out $500 for a ticket.
exactly. And I think we're now seeing that here. I think
Hmm.
audiences, younger people particularly, are conditioned. They see it on television, Britain's Got Talent, The X Factor, to whoop, and that's the most irritating habit on the planet. Particularly if you have
Depends on
somebody.
the show. Come on, there's some shows it works. It's like
Well, it does, but
people
in the middle.
singing along with Mamma Mia. You've
Yeah,
got
I
to
know.
sing along.
Absolutely. But when Hamlet finally utters the rest is silence and a whoop goes up, you do wonder. And it's happened.
Yeah.
Um, I mean,
So
yes, okay.
while we're on this is obviously what are the most annoying habits that the audiences have, in your opinion,
Most annoying
today?
habits.
Yeah, what
Um,
drives you mad when you're sitting there, apart from whipping at the end of Hamlet?
Whooping down my ear hole really does it.
Right.
I think um, definitely those who pull their phones out mid-show, particularly if you're in the front few rows, the actors can see you looking at your phone. Just turn it
Hmm.
off. That really is one. Um, I think the other things that really upset quite a few people, including myself, is if you're on your own at the theatre and
Hmm.
when somebody actually asks you, "Oh, do you mind moving your seat because we'd like to sit together?" Now that's happened to me 3 or 4 times,
That's
and
all right if you're moving more central.
well, it really isn't. If you like an aisle seat
Okay.
and you've picked your seat before the other people have picked theirs, and I've found that the simplest reply is actually, "I'm afraid I'm sitting here for technical reasons," because that really answers everything. And of course, you
Yeah.
are sitting there for a technical reason. Technically, you bought the tickets before they did, so they shouldn't have bought anything they didn't actually want. I think
Yeah.
that
Well,
one.
with my legs, that's reason enough for me. I just need to stand up, and then they see immediately why I need the aisle. But
Well, exactly.
um, any other
Both
really?
audiences that are really drunk.
Mhm.
That's really, no, everybody goes out and you want to drink before the show, relax. It's great. No problem at all. But I have been at one press night in particular with dear Christina Bianco, and one of her fans was sitting in the very front row, just in front of me, and she had bought in her own bottle of vodka and 3 pints of beer that she'd purchased at the theatre, and she drank about a third of each pint and topped it up with vodka, so that she was not just slightly inebriated and tipsy, but she
Mhm.
was paralytically drunk, and she spent the whole first half um, calling out to Christina and trying to engage in conversation. And Christina Bianco was so professional, giving her props to hold and trying to
Mhm.
incorporate her into the show. And at the interval, the lights went up, and I immediately went for the house manager, only to meet the house manager coming towards me. We both looked at each other, we both nodded, and about 10 minutes later, I caught up with the manager again, and he informed me that the drunken lady had actually thrown herself out. She had apparently managed to toddle up out from the Charing Cross Theatre onto the concourse outside the theatre and was being held up by the wall of the tunnel that the Charing Cross Theatre is in. And by the time the audience came out about an hour and a half later from the show, this woman had managed to worm her way about two-thirds of the way along the brickwork and was steadfastly holding on to it and probably reached a Magma Tube station about a week later. But that was the most extreme I've ever seen.
So I got the other side. I was house manager at the Shaftesbury and duty manager at Prince Edward for Mamma Mia. And
Oh, yes.
what must have 19 for audiences. I mean, I've been, apart from those roles, I've been working with them for God knows how many years. But
Mhm.
the thing that always bugged me is before a show started, when someone will come out and say, I can't see the stage.
Oh, yes.
Right. And, you know, you're surrounded by your team, so you've got to be kind of polite and everything. But on one occasion at the Edward, I just, well, blow this. I said, well, he's standing there with his wife. I said, well, honestly, sir, the stage hasn't moved in decades. In fact, if it starts to move, you know, I'm going to be worried. See the first half, and if you miss any of the performance as opposed to the stage, come and let me know. Yeah, but I think you'll
Yep.
find the performance is actually much more fun to watch than the stage itself. Comes the interval. Actually, made a point. Hello, sir. Are you enjoying the performance? You're not missing the stage, which I don't think I would do these days, but it gets to you in the end. People are looking for a
Yes.
discount or an upgrade. They're sort of leaning down as far as they can in the seat. I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
see. There's a tall person in front of me, or,
Mhm.
uh, you know, it started in the 90s. We hardly had any complaints at all. Then about 94, 95, suddenly the British Theatre going public became, I don't know where they got it from. They started complaining like mad, and shows that hadn't seen a complaint year on year was suddenly getting deluged. It was a sort of strange thing.
Very strange.
Maybe
I
there
mean,
was a consumer program, or maybe it was a predecessor of yours wising
oh,
them up. I don't know.
there might
Now,
have been.
what about the shows? Instead of the audience, how about the shows? What really bugs you about shows or producers or venues that
Um,
without cutting off your bread and butter?
I'll carry on with it. That sounds painful. I think what's what's bugging me now, shows themselves are actually wonderfully more sophisticated than they used to be. In fact, I saw Shadowlands last week, and
Right,
I'd seen the original back in 1989.
right,
And this production, they were doing things that you could never have done in 1989. Just didn't have the equipment, didn't have the technical know-how.
sure.
And it was perfect. Honestly, it was a very, very moving, beautifully produced, beautifully presented piece. So we are definitely improving from the point of view of what we are doing on the stage. What's really upsetting me most of all has to be that producers are only thinking short term now. I don't just mean that we're only seeing very short runs of plays. You know, in my
Mm-hmm.
day, it wasn't uncommon for a good play to recast two or three times. It would run 18 months to 2 years. And
Right.
now it's definitely 11 weeks, and then the star is going off to make some proper money doing a film. And that's
Mm-hmm.
very sad. I do think
Because a new play actually grows and matures through those
they really do.
early iterations with different actors bringing their input into the characters and building them.
They really do. And sometimes the author themselves will realize after 3 or 4 weeks the line doesn't particularly work and will rewrite it, introduce a slightly different version of the scene, or the duty director will look at something and say, well, hang on a minute, if you stand over here and say it this way, we're going to get more out of it. And you have a little bit more time to run it in. I think that's part of it
Which has been the case with musicals.
for years.
Every show running in the West End now has changed this year, last year, the year. There's always some nuance. There's always some bit of
Absolutely.
extra tech or whatever, or just a
Absolutely.
new cast. Someone comes in. When Lindsay Haitley went into Mamma Mia, I cried. I never cried in Mamma Mia before.
No.
But when she said "Looking Through the Window," that song,
Slipping
um,
through my fingers.
slipping through my fingers, I
Oh,
always use my own lyrics for that one.
oh,
But
don't. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I saw
but
her.
before that, I'd never been sad in Mamma Mia, you
I
know.
know, I know. I saw her play it, and I agree with you. I mean, I'm a huge Lindsay Haley fan. I was actually at the original press night of Carrie,
Mm-hmm.
so we were
All
young
right.
together, as the song has it. And yes, Mamma Mia. I do remember though she was singing "I Do," and there was somebody in the circle singing along with "I Do" as well, who finished just about two beats after she did. And the look from Lindsay Haley to that lady, all I can say is there was a little smoking pile of ashes that had to be swept up after the performance that day. But yeah,
Well, again,
back on.
from my point of view, um, they call for the manager. I go inside. There'll be a West Coast theatre devotee. Call security! Call security! There's someone singing next to me.
Mhm.
Well, so I can ask them to sing a little bit more softly, but in my experience, that normally makes them sing louder. And just to warn you, they will be dancing in the aisles on the next number.
Mm,
Um,
this is
it,
true.
for Mamma Mia, I mean, actually, we've got Jesus Christ going to the Palladium,
That's
and
right.
I actually sent a note to the people running that show saying it's impossible for me to sit through it without singing. So can you put a sing-along version on? Charge more. No, no, seriously.
Yeah, why
I've got
not?
friends as well. As soon as it starts, it's hardwired into our skulls. We just
Oh, it is.
have to go with it.
True. Well, you could just
So
sit in a box, of course, if you want to avoid the singing.
I think maybe pipe the actual live show into an adjoining venue and have people rocking to
Absolutely.
that. That's
Oh,
what I think.
that'd be rather
Now,
wonderful, wouldn't it? Go
people
on.
sort of um, think that maybe your life is 24-hour theatre. I know that you're a huge live music fan and an NFL fan.
That's
How
right.
do you fit? How do you fit so many passions into a working week straight month?
Well, fortunately, the NFL is only October to about February.
All right.
So, well, it's actually, well, pre-season is August, and then you've got a bit of September, but the London game is October. So that's not too bad, and there's Sundays. So I just keep those blocked off. And that isn't so much of a thing. The live music, well, you just see what you love. There was a terrific concert by Lucy Jones a couple of weeks ago at the Palladium,
Mm-hmm.
and that was worth every single penny and every hour, every minute being there.
Right.
And I just really look on it as scheduled time. I mean, I work 6 days a week, 51 weeks a year, and
You
you can
take a
squeeze
week
it on
off.
in. I
That's
take a week off.
outrageous.
Yeah, well, no, I get Sundays off and I take off the bank holiday days. But apart from that, I get a week off each year. And I spent,
So,
unfortunately, last year I actually spent two of those days at the theatre, but that's how it goes, really.
so,
£6
so,
those last year.
so, with your extensive knowledge of theatre, if I was a sort of um, fan, an investor, fan investor,
Hmm.
um, and I said, right, so here's 20 million, go away and produce a show.
Hmm.
What genre would it be? Would it be a musical or a play? What would the source subject be? Or would you create a new one? 20 million is
Oh,
yours to spend.
okay. Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, these days with 20 million, what I would love to have done is bring back both the Seville Theatre and the Windmill Theatre back into use as real theatres, but 20 million these days wouldn't even touch the sides.
That was the
So
show, not the.
we are
Don't
talking
worry
about
about the
shows.
venue. I'll
We are
provide a
talking about
venue.
shows. Okay, right. Okay, it's actually very simple. I was thinking about it, and I mean, much as I would love a couple of one-off concerts, I'd love to see Carrie the musical with Lindsay Haley taking the mother role and her daughter Meg playing Carrie. I think that would be wonderful.
Right.
But that would be very much a one-off. And I would also um, love to have a go at maybe a musical by Lucy Spraggan, who I think is the most incredible composer writer,
Hmm.
singer-songwriter. And we've never yet, I don't think, had a musical in Britain about a young lesbian girl um, growing up and having experience. Um, we've had transvestite boys like everybody's talking about Jamie, and there's
Hmm.
endless musicals about young men discovering they're gay. I think there's only been one musical about a young woman discovering she's a lesbian, and that's an American show. So I think Lucy Spraggan would have a songbook that could sing about her
Right.
experiences. So that would be one thing I'd love to develop. But I think really my heart of hearts, what I'd love to see is something that Jason Robert Brown has already played with on Broadway, which is Star Wars the musical, at and put that into the Dominion Theatre, which is the only theatre in London it can go to, because you'll be able to build
So,
out
so it'd
over the
be like
side
going back in
circle.
time.
A bit like going back in time. And in fact, if time has got any of the old scenery knocking about, it'll probably save them a few pounds on the
Yeah.
budget.
Got
That was a bit
hologram as
specific.
well.
Oh, absolutely. And that space age disc that sort of went almost vertically, went almost vertical with Cliff Richard clinging on for dear life.
I'm sure Cliff would be up for offers.
I'm sure he would. I think he could possibly play Darth Vader. He's got height,
But
but
would
I
you
was.
do it? So would you do it with CGI, or would you have someone with an uh, with a spaceship?
Oh, it's got to be a full. It's got to be a full 3D box set. You can't. I mean, you'll need a digital back screen, obviously, to project the opening iconic words onto
Hmm.
and to give us the idea of space. But you've got to have a proper set. I mean, Metropolis managed it quite nicely, and no reason why Star Wars can't do the same. It's quite
Yeah,
simple actually.
they had Citibank backing them. I'm only giving you 20 million. That wouldn't have
Mhm.
paid for the security on Metropolis. There were 20 guys lined up outside all the time. In fact, there were more security guards outside than there were public inside, from my memory.
I think they possibly were. Was Judy Kern really that popular? Why do they need 20 security
Brian
from a?
Blessed.
Brian Blessed, of course.
And
Yes.
of course, they might have been there to keep him in rather than
Okay, yeah,
keep
absolutely.
fans
Oh,
out.
yes, I
Uh,
had my cuddle with him at Cats, and I have my signed program from him from the
right.
second takeover cast I saw. Couldn't get tickets for the first few weeks, the first
Hmm.
few months, of course. But yeah, but definitely, I could definitely see Star Wars the musical being quite amazing. I mean, you have Giles Terera as Darth Vader. I think he's got a side to him. Absolutely do it. And I mean, surprise casting. I would honestly, I don't know if Simon Russell Beale can sing, but Simon Russell Beale as Obi-Wan Kenobi could be absolutely.
Yeah, I can
Uh,
see that. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I'm not even sure he would need to sing. He can maybe what's they called sing spiel if
Like
he
Rex
needed to.
Harrison did for Sam,
Exactly.
My Fair
Fair
Lady.
lady.
Yeah.
Exactly it. Then, I mean, obviously, little controversial. I'm thinking Julian Clary as C3PO because I think he's got just that right note of irritability, and I think the sarcasm quotient could go extremely high. I think that could be a
Well,
lot of fun.
look. Before you cast any more expensive actors, right?
Mhm.
I've only given you 20 million. I think 18 of that will have to go on effects. So I think we better
Mhm.
draw this to a halt before we go over budget, Steve.
Fair enough.
Over budget before we start, yes. Apart from getting the rights as well, which
Mhm.
probably
Oh,
be rather expensive, but who knows? Listen, it's been great catching up with you. And thank you
wonderful
very
talking
much
to you.
on behalf of the theatre goers and the theatre industry
Oh, it's been a
for
pleasure.
steering people through pitfalls and making sure they get the most out of their money when they come and see a show. Because if they don't, they won't
Yep.
come back and they won't tell their friends to come back.
Exactly. It's about seeing this show and coming out on an absolute high that keeps you buzzing for a week afterwards. That's what we're really
And,
aiming
te-
for.
and, and telling everybody as well. I saw
Exactly.
that wonderful show last week.
Exactly.
That's what we need. So thank you on
Been a
behalf of
pleasure.
theatre audiences, theatre producers, and we look forward to Star Wars musical with Julian Clary coming
Why
soon.
not?
Thank,
Why
thanks
not?
very much, Steve.
Thank you, David. Take care.
Cheers for that.